You know, like he was literally a father figure on set.
No,
No,
he was never a father figure. He was always a good friend and a role model.
I like that.
For a black man in this kind of
In
a
show
business,
business.
because he had his father.
That's right.
His father was, he didn't, you know, he had his father.
Yeah.
So he did not need a father figure.
I don't got it all planned out, but you know, I just watch it all pan out, 'cause I know that you know, covered in this life until forever.
All right, I have Pamela Warner today in the hot seat on the Cool Mom Code podcast, and I could not be more excited. I was telling you a little bit off camera, but I wanted to wait to tell you actually while we're talking officially. But you really are one of the OGs. I mean, you really are. And I think that if anyone knew your story, they would be like, wow. Because as I was doing research on you and reading up on you, I just think it's phenomenal. Whenever you see the talents in your child, you go after it. But not only that, but as a single mom, I was raised by a single mom. And so I know firsthand what I saw growing up as a child, how hard she worked, how much effort she put in, full-time job, raising 3 kids. I cannot even imagine in your role of what you must have taken on in so many different ways as someone who was not only building your son's profile and his business, but then also being a mom at the same time.
Yeah,
So let's get into it.
It's a very thin line. It's a thin line that you have to walk.
It is.
But you have to know what you want. At the end of the day, you have to know what you want, because all of it leads to some end result.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I have to give credit where credit is due. While I was a single mom 9 months out of the year, his father was very, very much involved.
I love that.
So every summer, he was with his father.
Nice.
There was never a conversation about it. It was school let out today. He was on that plane first thing in the morning.
That's beautiful.
School started, you know, whenever it started.
Right. September 1st, he was there. August 31st. Yes, that's right.
You know, so I have to say that his father had and also a lot of influence.
Now, so was that something that you guys you and his father, because you were divorced?
We were divorced.
Was that something that you prearranged, especially once Malcolm started getting into acting and theater and all that
was
stuff?
That was
day
always
one.
the case.
Yeah.
That was all. He always spent the summer with his father.
And what if shooting
Always.
schedule? What if Malcolm's shooting schedule changed?
When he started working more, then that changed.
Okay.
But from the time of 6, 7,
Yeah.
every summer he spent with his father.
Wow.
But when it started picking up, you know, he couldn't go.
Okay, yeah. So wait a minute. So what were you doing for those 3 months?
I swung from the chandeliers. I did whatever I thought I wanted to do, whenever I wanted to do,
That's
and
right.
however I wanted to do it.
That's right.
That was my time.
That's right.
And I think it really had a lot to, and my heart really goes out for parents and single parents who don't get that break.
Yeah.
I was so blessed to have that break. I couldn't wait for him to get on that plane and go with his father. And I couldn't wait till he came home.
That's
He
right.
came home.
That's right.
So we partied.
Yes.
From the time he got back until it was time for him to go, we had a great time. We just had, it was a great time.
Yeah.
And I think that really had an impact on our relationship.
Yes.
I think it made a difference because you get a break. Parents need a break from their children. You can love them till the
right.
cows come home, but I'm sorry.
That's
Be
right.
a martyr if you want to.
That's right.
But you need a break from your children, and you need a significant break so that you can renew and refresh yourself.
Yeah.
And and your mother having 3 kids. Oh my
Yes.
God.
She.
You know, having and then 3 different personalities.
That's right.
And having to, that's a lot.
That's a
That's
lot.
a lot. That's a lot. And
That's a lot. And listen, you know, it's interesting you say that because married or not, right? Single parent or not, or a parent who has a spouse or whatever, and you're doing it as a couple, whatever it is, getting the breaks are hard. They're very hard. even for my mom as a single parent, she never got these like chunks of breaks like that. Like, you know, those chunks of time. She truly was like on her own figuring it out with my grandma. She had that type of help in terms of like grandma and like older, you know, but it never these chunks of time.
She could never swing from the
No,
chandeliers.
could never swing from the chandeliers at all. I mean, but that's amazing. The fact that but also I feel like it allows you to go so hard in during those 9 months.
Yes. Oh,
you
let me tell
commit
you.
to it. You are in it.
Let me tell you, we had a good time. We just had a really good time. And so by the time he would get home, I was so laser focused on him.
Yes, right.
And what his needs were. The other thing with my ex-husband, and I call him my husband because he's the only husband I ever had.
Yeah.
I've known him all of my life. Yeah. He was family. His aunts and my aunt were young girls in the church together. They grew up in the church together.
Yeah.
So he wasn't a stranger.
That's right.
He wasn't a stranger. Just that, you know.
But how beautiful is that though for Malcolm?
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? Because that's the benefit, right?
Yes.
Whenever you're talking about, of course, it makes it easier. Like you said, you have a system, you have a routine. 9 months, 3 months, you guys got it. You're all locked out. We can call each other. We can talk when issues come up, when problems, hey, this happened.
Yes.
We're best friends, although the marriage didn't work.
Yes.
But what a benefit for Malcolm to see that. To see that relationship still being able to coexist and work and be a partnership.
Yes.
Even though you weren't both in the same house.
Exactly. But his presence was there.
That's right.
His presence was felt even before we have all the modern technology. If he called and he could not get us, like he called a couple of times, he was and got us. He was like, "Where were you?" You know, he was. You know, he was. Frantic, his presence was there. You know, his presence was there. He was always there. It's been I think. That helped a lot. It helped a tremendous amount for Malcolm and for me as well, because at least I had someone to say, well, X, Y, and Z is going on, and he would give his input. But he was always very, other than being accountable for my time, where was I? He was always very kind of hands off. Yeah. You know, well, whatever decision you make.
That's
you know.
right. Allowing you to take the reins.
Exactly.
While you were there. That's
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Let's take it all the way back though, because I think anyone tuning into this episode really wants to dive in deep into the how. Right? The how it began, the how, the why, when did you decide this and that? So how did you know that Malcolm had something different from maybe other kids? How did you know that this was going to be like something serious?
Well, when I entered the business, it wasn't to be a professional. It was not to be what it came to be.
Right.
It was strictly an extracurricular activity.
Okay.
That was it. It was because I tried different things. His father coached a little league baseball team, and he hated it, but he had to play because it was his father.
That's right.
I got him in a little basketball thing. He hated it. He didn't like the contact. I tried just a lot of different things, and nothing took. I was having a conversation with a friend, and I was, I was trying to find something, and she said, "Well, I have a friend that's running a theater group in the Inglewood Park, Inglewood Playhouse. So why don't you take him over there and see if that was it?" Well, that was it. I took him over there. He had to audition, and he won his audition, and that was it. He knew it still was not serious for me, but he knew that was what he wanted to do for the rest of his life. He was 8 years old at the time.
Wow. And now, you saw a spark in him.
I enjoyed what I saw. It's a children's theater. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, participating and making costumes. I enjoyed that. It still was not a professional endeavor. I was in my, around this time I was in my last years of getting my undergraduate degree that I had taken so long to get. And I was very determined that I was going to, because I would go to school, get tired of not having money, get a job, got tired of not making enough money to getting promoted because I needed a degree, back and forth. So at one point I just said, I don't care if we eat rice and beans every day.
That's right.
I'm getting this degree because soon he'd be in junior high school, and children need things.
Right.
They need things.
That's right.
And so I just set my mind that I don't care what. So that was not, I was not focused on that. He had something to do. It was an extracurricular activity that he enjoyed. Fine. So it really wasn't until the Cosby Show that it was serious.
Okay, but see, how did we get to the Cosby Show? How did we go from Inglewood Theater, okay,
there was an agent.
auditioning?
There was an agent that came, Miriam Baum, and she had a little boutique agency called Artists First. And she came 2 years in a row and saw productions, and the first year she asked me, she wanted to sign them. I said no, because I'm doing something else here. I'm trying to get my education, my degree.
You knew that it was going to take a lot of effort from you as well.
Yes, and I wasn't interested in that part of it. It was just, he's happy doing this. Let him be happy. Then she came the second year. By the second year, I was out of school. I had gotten my degree, and I had a little business. And I said, okay, my time is my own, and I can,
Right.
And he went out. He booked a couple of little jobs. And then she submitted him for the Cosby Show. Well, at that point, we all knew that Bill's shows didn't last very long, And
because wait a minute, I didn't know this. Wait a minute. So at that time,
he had several shows that did not go.
Okay.
Yeah, do your research on him. He did several shows that did not have a long
longevity.
Run. Yeah, didn't have longevity, and so it was like, okay, no big deal. So he was submitted. Little did we know that this was going to be an epic, because it's like anything else. You try, and then bingo, you hit it.
Yes.
Which is what he did. Now his stand-up career was over the top.
Right.
It was phenomenal. But his television career, like everything else, you got to rework it, redo it, blah, blah, blah. And so this was the right combination for him.
Right.
And it
for
was
Bill Cosby.
for Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
And it was successful right out of the box. Well,
and at this point, Malcolm is what, 10?
No, at this point, Malcolm's 13.
13.
Malcolm's 13.
Okay, so Malcolm had a childhood. He had a normal childhood.
Yes.
Very different from maybe some of the other actors on the show.
Yes.
He was able to experience, elementary school and, like you said, different after school activities and have a friend group and all these things before going into the show business
world. Yeah, exactly. So at that point in time, I knew I had to learn stuff that I didn't feel I needed to learn real quick.
Okay.
Real quick.
See, this is my question though, because once he gets booked for the Cosby Show, now, and we realize very quickly, right, that this is going to be a long-term thing.
Didn't know. Because his shows never really had longevity.
But the Cosby Show was so electric.
But listen, what you're referring to is when it aired. Now remember, we started this the end of July, August. That aired in September. So we didn't have the numbers, we didn't have the momentum at that time going into it.
Right. You don't know.
It was still, it was okay.
This little thing you did.
Yeah. For me, it was like, okay, Bill Cosby, if it has to, it'll be something good to be on his resume. And that was the extent of it. Now the other part of it, which I did not know until we were negotiating the contract, we had to move to New York. I did not know that. I was living here in Los Angeles. I did not know until she said, X number of dollars for a relocation. I said, relocation to where? And she said, it's going to be shot in New York. And I was a little taken aback. Now, the good part is that I had lived in New York before. I had plenty of friends. I had family there. So it wasn't like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Okay, but hold on, Mama, because let's take this back, because I'm thinking of myself as a mom in that moment. And I'm thinking of my mother in that moment, what she would have done. So you see that your child is interested in theater. They're doing great. He goes on a couple auditions. Boom, he gets submitted for the Bill Cosby Show, the new show, The Cosby Show. We'll see if it goes, blah, blah, blah. He's obviously selected. He goes in, he's casted. It's great. We shot the pilot episode, is what you're telling me. Pilot episode is shot. Now it doesn't air until September, and we go for there. But they're telling you have to move to New York. So you have to now.
You had to film the show. The show had to be filmed.
You have to quit your job. You have to quit your job. Mom has to quit her job.
At this time, I had my catering business.
Got it.
I had my catering business, so I was okay.
So you're able to leave catering business in LA and move to New York.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
But see, the show had to be
Filmed.
taped.
That's
had to
right.
be filmed.
Mm-hmm.
Still did not know until the opening night, to the premiere night, that it was, and it still did not
Register.
resonate in my mind,
Yeah.
because every season it was like, well, I guess we'll see. I didn't know to read the numbers, to read the ratings.
Yeah.
I had no clue, had absolutely no clue. Every season was, well, I guess we're going to go back, pack up and go back to go back to Los Angeles. That was my mindset. And
how many seasons later?
8, which could have gone on more, but Bill decided 8, that was it. And one thing I remember, the first time in my mind, we were going to pack up and go back to LA. I still had set my apartment. And he said to me, now he's 13, and he said, I was probably, well, what are we going to do? And blah, blah, blah. So he said, well, Mom, God is not going to let us come this far to let us down.
Raised right.
And that was, and so it was like, well, okay. And so we never had to go back home.
That's great.
And for 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a commitment, though. I will say that is that's a shift in everything.
And my whole life, my entire life
shifted. Because 8 years, and not just for Malcolm, that's 13 to 21. Right? That is his entire young adulthood, adolescence, right? Now on a TV show. For you, now you have to go back to a life in New York. Luckily, you have friends there and all that stuff like that. But that's a whole different trajectory from what you thought as a parent would be.
Right. Because I thought it would be me getting my degree and
Your
getting
catering
a
business.
fabulous job or
That's right.
whatever, something,
Yeah.
you know. The catering business came about because I couldn't find a job after getting this degree. I don't know about your generation, but my generation, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about you're going to college.
Yes.
You're going to college. You're going to, but no one said what you do when you get to college.
That's right.
No one tells
That's
you
right.
what
No
to
one
do
tells you.
because they did not know. They just knew my child was going to go to college.
That's right.
I did that, got myself in college and had to figure it out. And anyway,
Yeah. And it was a journey, because you said it took you a minute to finish college because of all the other things that you were juggling and doing at the same time.
And
you were a mother.
in and out, and being a mother, you know.
That's right.
So it was a shift. It was a different journey, a different trajectory of my life. There was nothing else I felt that I could do but support this and go along with it.
Yeah. So you're on the show.
We're on the show.
He is 13 coming on this show till 21. What was that like? Because now you are full on momager mode, or let me rephrase this. Now you are in full on manager role on the show for your son. And that now presents all sorts of things, I can imagine, because you're handling his business, but yet he still wants mom. So how did you decipher those areas when you're only one person?
Well, he's a teenager. Teenagers don't want their mother. Come on now. You know, teenagers don't want.
See, I'm crossing over into this.
You'll find out.
I haven't gotten there yet.
How old are your children?
So my oldest is 11. She'll be 12.
It's coming. It's coming.
I'm calling you. You're going to go speed dial.
Yes, they love you.
Yeah.
But now remember, he's in the spotlight. He's on a major show. The girls are coming out of the woodwork and underneath the doors everywhere. So he doesn't need his mama, you know.
Right.
But he had the confidence that I was taking care of business, that I was taking care of everything. So all he did was, you know, when they say when you're doing something that you love, it's not work, it's play.
That's right.
So all he did was work/play, you know.
Right.
And
did he see it that way? Did he see it that way all the time? Was there ever a point where he had a conversation with you? Because you always hear about these child actors who want to like divorce their parents or want to like separate from the business of their parents, or decide at one point, no, I don't want you to be my manager anymore because you're not doing it, whatever, in their minds, right?
Well, initially there was the gentleman that ran the Playhouse, the Inglewood Playhouse, Gary Venet, went with us to New York.
Oh, wow.
I didn't understand. He was going to help and be a manager. I had no idea what a manager was or what a manager did. I realized that because Malcolm was a minor, he could not make decisions. Everything had to be filtered through me. So after I think the first season, I was not comfortable with that arrangement. I'll put it like that. And I had to make, so I was still kind of free. I wasn't in the thick of things. I was still, I didn't have to really make certain decisions because, or make them on my own, because he was, all the inquiries he was handling and blah, blah, blah. So when I realized that this couldn't go any further, I had to make a decision. What do I want to do? Because now I will have to take care of this and take over everything. And so I had to have a long talk with myself. And I did, and I decided I was the best person for the job to do it, because I was doing it anyway. In a sense, he just could not make the decision. Right. I still was making the decisions. So that part was a little difficult for Malcolm, because most children do not witness their parents or parent in action taking care of business. They are the beneficiaries of all that. They don't see you haggling with the gas man. They don't see you They don't see any of that.
That's right.
They don't see any of that. So in his mind, a businesswoman was a shrew. So he was very resistant to me being in charge like that, because he had never seen me be in charge.
Operate like that.
He had never seen that. So I had to show him that I could handle it. I had to prove to him that I could handle it. And now he's a teenager.
That's right.
Hormones are popping up all over the place. So there were uncomfortable moments.
Right.
But through it all, I had to, no matter what, I was still the parent. And there was an incident that happened. By this time, he's about 15.
Are you that one friend in the group that loves to treat yourself? It's okay. Honestly, we all do it. I know you. You like to get a pedicure and opt for the extra 10-minute foot massage with green tea infused lotion. Refuse to make coffee at home because that fancy coffee shop is right downstairs. Opt for that extra leg room or even a first class seat on the plane because your vacation starts now. Yep, I know you. Well, if you treat yourself to the top options with everything in life, why settle when finding a doctor? It is your health after all. Enter ZocDoc, the place where you can find and book tens of thousands of top-tier doctors, all with verified patient reviews. So don't settle. Go for the best and find the right doctor for you. With ZocDoc, you've got more options than you know. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare highly rated in-network doctors near you and instantly book appointments with them online. Listen, if I ever need to find the right doctor for me, this is what I'd use. Go to ZocDoc.com/coolmom and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/coolmom. ZocDoc.com/coolmom. Just also a really quick note. If you're loving this content, our podcast with all of our amazing guests, we love sharing their stories. It really is such a joy for us. Then you're going to love thecoolmom.co. Make sure to head over there. It is everything that you can think of lifestyle. So we have fashion, food, we have amazing interviews with a lot of other cool moms as well. So check out all of our Cool Mom Co features, shop our merch, do all the things. Check out thecoolmom.co.
And there was an incident that happened. By this time, he's about 15. And Malcolm always had freedom, even before showbiz. He always had freedom to go and do whatever he wanted to do. Always made sure he had money in his pocket, and and that he was.
Him.
And so the same, he still had his freedoms. He could come and go, and but I felt I needed to have a curfew. And the curfew kind of got pushed back a little bit. And so I said, okay. And I said, I want you in the house by 12 o'clock. I'm not 12:10, not 15, 12:15. I want you in the house by 12 o'clock. Now, this is a 15-year-old out at 12 o'clock at night. I mean,
midnight. That's pretty lenient.
Yeah. So he swaggers in about 12:20.
Oh, no, you didn't.
And I met him at the door. And let's just say what I said to him was, I don't care whose money is paying the rent.
Mm.
I am still mama, and this is my house.
Mm.
And you are going to do what I tell you to do.
Wow.
And there was a little something else went on along with that. We won't get into that.
Mm-hmm.
But I never had that problem again.
Wow.
Because I had to remain the parent. And see, in a situation like that, a lot of parents, you don't want to rock the boat because the money is coming in. So you want to please and placate the child.
So you make the child almost an authority figure before they're ready.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And I wasn't having that.
Yeah.
Because this was before before computers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was an excellent typist. And in my mind, we will go back to California. I can get a job.
That's
I'll
right.
get a job.
That's right.
Typing.
And you coming with me.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So I was always a parent. And then he had an incident where I guess reality kind of hit him. I don't know what he was, I can't really, I don't want to go into what I think it was, but
Right.
he was having a little issue, I don't know if I want to do this. And I said, Bet, we can go back to California, but you're going to have a job.
That's right.
You're going to go right down to, then it was Boys. You're going to go, now it's Ralph's.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go right down the street to Ralph's and you're going to bag groceries.
That's right.
You're going to have a job.
Mm-hmm.
So you either do this or you go and bag groceries. Just tell me, because we can go.
Right.
Well, he got over himself.
Real quick.
He got over himself, and that didn't happen. But I guess it was just maybe it was overwhelming for him at the time. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter.
I mean, it must be, right? You're talking about a teenager, like you said, girls coming out the woodwork, so
Yeah.
much limelight, so much attention on them on a #1 show. It has to be a lot of different, plus hormones.
Hormones.
This is adolescence. So all the things
Hormones.
going through, and their brain is trying to figure out, how do you be adult? How do you be kid? How do you merge the two? How do I go? So yes, I can
So
definitely
for me,
understand.
I label that period of time, and with most children, they're insane.
Yeah.
They're mentally ill. They're mentally ill
Yes.
during this period of time
Yes.
because those hormones are bombarding them, and so they just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And it's a period of insanity that they all go through. So he got over himself, and he was fine, and he was fine. But the point I'm trying to make is that in this business, you cannot abdicate your authority, and you cannot abdicate being a parent. Because of the money coming in. And for a lot of parents, this money is in one check is more than their entire families and have ever seen
Right.
at one time.
Right.
And so it can be very heady, and it can be very what's the word? I don't know. Intoxicating.
Tempting. Yeah.
Intoxicating.
Do you feel like, I mean, I could see how that could be hard for some families. How is it that you felt like you kept such a strong hold on it, though? Was it just something you came in with, or did you also have a support system or a network around you who was like, don't let this happen?
No, that's why I wrote the book, because I didn't have a support system. I had no one to tell me anything.
Right.
There was no one. There were a couple of people who were mothers, Black mothers, who were kind of prominent at the time, and I would go to them and I would say, well, how do you do this, or what do you do? And they said, oh, I don't know. And
What about the other mothers on the show? Because this was a Black show.
They had less experience than I did.
Yeah.
They didn't have any experience,
This is why you're writing the book, though.
This is why I'm
because
writing the
this
book.
is all that experience now goes into it for the next one. But with that relationship, I mean, I can only imagine that Malcolm and Bill Cosby were very close.
Yes.
Like he was
Yes.
literally a father figure on set.
No.
No,
He was never a father figure. He was always a good friend and a role model
I like that.
for a Black man in this kind of
In
a
show
business,
business.
because he had his father.
That's right.
His father was, he didn't, he had his father.
Yeah.
So he did not need a father figure.
Mm.
He was and still is a very, very, very good friend.
Yeah.
Good friend.
Yeah.
A friend that has your back. A friend that can share experiences with you and show you and teach you. And so that was the nature of the relationship. But as a
Yeah.
father,
He had a father.
he had a father.
You're right about
He
that.
had a
You're right
father,
about
yeah.
that. Is there any words that you gave Malcolm during all that Bill Cosby stuff that happened? Is there anything that you told him?
What do you mean? I don't.
Just any words of like comfort, any words of like, that must have been, I can only imagine that in that situation, knowing something for that long and then seeing Bill, how he was portrayed in the spot, like in that whole scandal, everything that happened,
Mm-hmm.
how hurt I would have been. I can only imagine how hurt I would have been.
Well, by the time Bill's personal life became news, Malcolm was an adult.
Yeah.
So he formed his own, however he felt about it or feels about it. He was an adult.
Yeah.
He formed his own opinion and had his own feelings about it. So I can't answer that.
Yeah.
But what I can say is, while Malcolm was a minor and on the child, Bill was very protective. I will say that. He was very protective. One time Malcolm, we lived in California and New York.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes he'd be in Los Angeles alone by himself. He'd go and hang out, and I'd still be in New York. So one time he had come back. He was about 17, I think. And he came home and he had this VHS tape, and he says, "Mom, I want you to see this." And he put it in, and he was skydiving. And I thought I was going to lose my mind. And unbeknownst to me, that was like his third or fourth skydive. Yeah, because he wanted to get certified. I was irate, and I was terrified more than anything else. And I went to Bill. I said, "Bill," "this is happening." I said, "You've got to tell him don't do this, or increase the show insurance, because if something happens to him, And Bill just kind of
You don't think about that. You don't think about that at all.
So I'm primed at this point for thinking liability across the board.
Look, now you're educated. Now you're like, I've been in this game too long. Yeah.
Bill he looked at me and he just laughed, and he said, he chuckled, he didn't laugh. He says, "Leave him alone. Just leave him alone." And there was, maybe a couple of other little things, and that was always his go-to. Leave him alone. He's fine. Just leave him alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, he is and was just a wonderful friend, and a mentor, in not so much a father figure, but a mentor in terms just how he walked through life.
That's a better term.
Yeah.
That's a much better term. Yeah. You think about it because you forget, right? You forget because what the audience sees is Bill Cosby as Malcolm's father on the show, because we see him as Theo. Obviously this is your baby and this is your son and this is your, like, you know what I mean? But for us, we see him as Theo, and we saw him grow up on the show. So for us, it's like, or for me, I'll say from my perspective, it's so different.
It is.
Because you see all those lessons that came in on the show were lessons that I remember my brothers going through at the same time, right? Who were of the similar age and like all that. So that's how we see it. So it's interesting.
Right. So, because when you're in it, it is about it's about the production. It's not so much what you felt and what you saw was what was written and for you to feel.
That's right. That's right.
Everything was written.
That's right.
So it wasn't like something that was organic.
Right. Right.
In a sense.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say this, because now, as a part of the industry, obviously,
you understand.
I know that.
Now you know that, yes.
But as a child watching it, for me, it's literally just feelings.
Yes.
And memory. It's feelings and memories as you watch that episode, as you watch this. And
exactly.
the whole time. And Cosby Show was 8 years, like you said, running. So it's so much of my childhood.
Yes.
Yes. I want to flip to a little bit of this question that you have, and I think you wrote about it in the book too. And this is a big one for you.
Okay.
Nowadays, you look at the Kris Jenners of the world, right, as the ultimate momagers. That is through headlines. That's how she even perceives herself sometimes. I feel like I've heard her say, what is it about momager that you're like, that's not my term, not for me?
It's not my term, and I think it does a disservice to a parent to be called a momager.
Tell me why.
Now, in this business, you're dealing with agents, and you're dealing with managers, and you're dealing with producers. Once you take on that label as a momager, in my feeling, in my experience, and the way I see it, it takes away from your power. You've got to always maintain your authority and your power. And being a momager is cutesy. It's not serious. It's better than, I think maybe be a little better than, or on the same level as stage mother. Or which is like,
no one likes that.
No one likes that. So it's a little softer, but it's still, I have the same gag reflex with it, with that term. You are an entertainment industry professional is what you are. When you are managing your child. You're not a momager. So then what happens when, because there are a lot of fathers that do this. So what does a father become? A dadager? Now, you see how silly that is? Isn't that absolutely silly? Now, Kris Jenner can do whatever the heck she wants to do with her tribe of females. And if that's what she wishes to see herself as, you know, good for her. But what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to raise another group of parents who are in the business managing their children.
Right.
And I want them to see themselves as professionals. Because once you do this, you are a professional, or you need to hurry up and become one.
That's right.
Because your unprofessionalism will affect your child's career. If you come there acting wild and crazy, they don't have to use your child. You know how many millions of children out there? They don't need your child is not the, is not the end and be all. You may
They're not
think,
the only one. Look, as we know, it's the entertainment business, and everyone is replaceable.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it is.
Exactly.
All right, so she wrote A Parent's Guide to Managing Showbiz Kids, which I think is phenomenal because, like you said, the people ask me all the time, are you going to get your kids, because I modeled for years, I acted, whatever, and people always say, are you going to get your kids into modeling? Are you going to get your kids? And I'm like, they can do stuff with me, but I'm always so nervous of going into the whole manager role for my children because I know that is a full-time job. You have to educate yourself on every little part of the business.
That's right.
You have to know how to negotiate. You have to be able to read contracts. You have to do all the things I do for myself.
Exactly. But you're better suited for it because you know the business.
And I know how much time and effort it takes, which is why I'm like,
exactly.
No.
But because you do have that background, you can hire a manager.
Yes.
So you can hire a manager. And what I do state in the book, if you do not want to be hands-on, you hire a manager, but you are still the team captain.
But listen,
You're
I
still
agree
the
with
team
you.
captain.
I agree with this, though, all the way, though.
Yeah.
There is something about, and we see it even with Usher. Let's talk about Usher right now, having such a, like, his moment is so big right now, just doing the Super Bowl, all this stuff, has a show in Vegas, now going on tour. Usher's been around since I was 13. I mean, he's been around forever, it feels like, my whole entire life. But his mom was his manager.
That's right.
For a very long time.
Right.
Helped take his career to new heights.
Exactly.
There is something I do believe. I believe that if you have a child or even a young adult who is like in this business, a parent who loves you unconditionally and knows your talent better than anybody else and who will fight your battles and go to war for you is the best person you can have as an advocate on your team.
That's right. That's
Because
right.
there
That's
is
right.
something
Absolutely.
about even
Absolutely.
hiring the best of managers,
That's
the
right.
best of agents out there, the ones who rep whoever the biggest stars are, will not be the same in that boardroom, in that meeting, pitching you for that show or that movie or that whatever.
That's right. That's
as
right.
it will be if it was
Your
someone
parent.
who loves you unconditionally.
Absolutely.
That could be a parent. That could be whatever it is in your
Absolutely.
inner circle.
No, you're absolutely correct.
Right?
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
1,000%. And that's the point I tried to make in the book, that you are the best person for this job.
Yes.
You really are. And if you do not, because that's a kind of a heavy thing for some people.
Yeah.
And if they're not evolved themselves, they really are afraid and don't feel they can do it.
Right.
So then I suggest hiring a manager. But remember, you are the team captain. No matter what, you have to work with those people. Even now, I no longer do hands-on management with film and television.
Right.
I put together a team to do that. Once I reached a certain age, was like, let me segue into something else. I handle all of his personal appearances, all of his speaking engagements. For a while, I handled, because he has a band, I handled the band.
Wow.
So I did all that. But there's a certain way that you move with TV and television that I was exhausted with. I did no longer want to go to any of the parties. I didn't want to do the schmoozing.
It's a lot.
I just didn't. So I hired a fantastic young man. He was a young man at the time, to come in and co-manage with me, which is, I also talk about co-managing.
Nice.
And so he's gone on to have his own huge management business, and the agent that we had left agent team and teamed with this guy. So they're a powerhouse.
Wow.
Vault Entertainment, they are a powerhouse. Justin Baxter and Adam Griffin, they are a powerhouse.
You know what I notice a new trend now, especially with all of these influencers, social media stars, people who aren't necessarily coming up in the traditional sense of the entertainment industry. They're hiring on CEOs of their company. So instead of saying a manager that's a parent or a close friend or even hiring someone out of the business, they're hiring on CEOs to take on that role in their business. So this CEO also acts in the role of what you're saying as manager, all stuff. How do you feel about that? It's a different take, right?
It is quite different, and I can't really speak with any sort of authority with it because it's new for me.
Yeah.
And the basics still remain. What I've
That's
written,
right.
it doesn't matter how it's formulated. There's still a base for it all, and that's what the book.
Because really, it's about taking the helm of your business in your own hands.
Right.
Understanding that this is a business.
Yes.
This isn't an after-school project. This is a business.
Right.
And with that business comes agents and managers and business managers and money
Exactly.
and checks and all these things. And now you're showing us how that you can literally from A to Z. Make sure that you're covered.
And there's a glossary. There's a glossary, so you'll understand some of the terms.
I wouldn't expect anything less.
And a page with notes. You can take your notes.
I wouldn't expect anything less with you, Pamela. Anything less. I just love it. I think it's actually
Thank you.
I think it's smart.
Thank
Because you know why? I think that you have so much experience to give in this field.
Thank
You
you.
have so much knowledge. You literally created a superstar in your own right.
Oh, thank
you. Know,
you.
and for him
Thank
to have had,
you.
listen, don't they always say that the true test of a successful career is longevity?
Longevity. Whether or not you're on the screen every time you turn around, the fact that you're still in the game, and he's still in the game, very
Still in
much
the game,
so.
just longevity, been in the business for umpteenth years, and I think that's amazing. And the fact that you were at the helm of that. I do
Yes.
have a question.
Yes.
This is something I wonder. When you are a manager of a child, right? How do you figure out? Obviously, we know about, and you talk a lot about this too, Coogan accounts, which is something very big in California. You have to have Coogan accounts. How do you also in that role? Like, how do you figure out what your salary in this is? How do you figure out what, like, if your whole job is now managing your child, how do you figure out the money aspect of everything? Is that something you like step in and do, or do you bring in like a business manager to help figure out those things?
Well, it took about 3 years before I took any money at all. I would not, because I was so afraid, because when
But
we
how
got
do
into
you
the business,
survive? Because you're still
well, I took money, and there was money. I used money to run the household.
Yeah.
If there was an event or something, I used money for clothes, something like that. But to
Yeah.
have money in my pocket, my own
Yeah.
funds, no, I didn't.
Wow.
And I was the agent, Miriam. You know, she really talked to me. Said, you're doing this work. You need money. You need to.
Yeah.
So I did. I said, okay, I'll become officially on paper manager. And at that time, the industry standard was managers were 15% and agents were 10%.
Got it.
So I started taking my 15%.
Yeah.
I think after the first year, I engaged a business manager
Right.
firm, DeBlois Mejia and DeBlois Mejia and Company, which is unfortunately no longer in existence. Just a few months ago, Dick DeBlois retired and left the business to Wayne Mejia, and Wayne Mejia took over it was a huge management practice, and just recently Wayne retired.
Oh, wow.
So I was left with having to transfer this financial entity to find someone else to run it, because by this time it's a lot of money, and it's really big, a lot of moving parts.
Right.
So who do I get? Because these people were with us from the very beginning.
Yes, see, that's the hard part.
Absolutely terrifying.
Trust.
How do you find a company to take this over that you can trust? Because
That's right.
I am I'm very hands-on with the money. I'm still hands-on with the money.
Yeah.
I've signed all checks except for his personal
Okay, Oprah.
his personal stuff.
That's right.
Nobody signs any checks but me.
Is that in the book?
That part's not in the book.
Well, it's on the Cool Mom Code because I think that's an important part too.
Yeah, no, you don't.
You have to sign your own checks.
You do not let people sign your checks because money disappears
easily.
So I had to find a company that I felt comfortable with. I interviewed several people, and it was getting down to the wire, and I had to move it. So I found a company, and thus far they've done very well.
Good.
So far they've done very well. Then also the other part of it, 30 plus years of, there's 2 meetings that we would have to have, a year-end closeout, and then there's one in June and one in December. And so from the time Malcolm was, I guess, 14 years old, I made him go to these meetings, these financial meetings. Now, I didn't care if he understood or not.
Right.
But I knew that if there was ever a issue and we were in court, you cannot say I did not know.
That's right.
You cannot say I wasn't there.
That's
because
right.
he was there for every meeting all of his life until now. Now we do Zoom. We don't have to go into the office.
Right.
And he can handle it. He's learned how to handle his money.
Well, he knows the verbiage.
Because he was
language.
there.
That's
because
right.
Because he was there.
That's right.
He can now I'm the kid sitting back. And he, I'll think of a question and he will ask that question. So he's fully versed all of these years, all of his life.
Right.
He has been there and gotten an education how to handle. So if I am no longer able to do this, I feel very comfortable that he can take over his own finances.
That's a tool. I think that's a tool you equipped him with. I mean, I do. And I think that every parent, whether you're in show business or not,
needs to teach financial education.
Financial education
Yes.
and literacy, because it is something that
literacy.
I feel like we don't, you don't think about it as often, right? Like we don't think about it as often. I remember my grandmother sitting me down and writing checks and saying, this is how you write it here, you put it here, blah, blah, here.
Yes.
You don't think about that. Those little things matter. So being able to talk that language and ask the right questions, even if he's not paying attention, I think every child should know what is going on when it comes to
his business.
Business.
This is his business.
That's right. Or a bank account. Even if you're not in the business. Or a bank account. If your grandparents give you money every year for Christmas or whatever it is, you need to know this is how much you have in your bank account. This is how you do it. This is how it can come out. If you want to have a little spending money, that's fine. But this is what you're saving. This is what's going into this treasury.
Exactly.
Whatever it's happening.
Exactly.
It's just about that financial literacy.
The Coogan account is it's called a Coogan account here in California. It has other terms, other places. But it's the same thing. It's a certain amount of the money must be put away for the child. And it was based on Jackie Coogan's life, where his parents stole all of his money.
Wow.
Millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And by the time he was able to understand what was going on, I think he had under maybe a couple of $100,000.
Wow.
And so that's when this law came
Was the
to
Coogan
be.
account around when Macaulay Culkin?
Oh yeah, it's been
his
around.
parents?
It's been around.
Wow.
It's been around.
Okay.
It's been around. I don't know. It's in the book. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, and I
No, that's okay.
apologize for
Yes,
not.
no.
But
Read the book.
Yeah,
For the
read the
facts,
book. It's in the book.
Read
It's in the book. And I detail what happened to Jackie Coogan.
Wow.
I detail all of that, and when it actually came into effect, that it's mandatory to have to open a
Absolutely.
Coogan account, because people become intoxicated with the money, and they also can be intoxicated with, well, I'm the parent. And some people are just not like integrity.
Well, listen, you see all this, and I'll go back to these because social media, I think, is the new version of whatever these child actors are coming up, the YouTube stars and all this stuff like that. But you see them all the time where the parent is now up in the club and the kid is the one making all the money off these
That's right.
TikTok videos or whatever.
That's
and
right.
now the parent is the one on yachts and and now the parent's getting divorced and now this one's on, it's
Exactly.
it's
That
all-
happens.
It happens.
That
so
happens.
it happens a lot.
That's because it was about them and not about the child. It became about them. And it became some sort of status for them. If your internal stuff is not together,
That's right.
you will definitely go that route.
That's right.
Because now you're a big man, a big woman around town. But what about your child? What about your child? I was just a little different because it was always about, it's taken me a lot to put myself forward. This book I've been trying to write this book for almost 20 years.
Really?
This just didn't happen overnight. And it meant me putting myself out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that a little shy, a little reticent to do that. But I knew once I did it, I would have to do stuff like this.
What was the moment that made you say, I'm ready to put myself out there?
When I finished the book. Because there was another book that I wanted to write, and I knew I couldn't write that one until this was finished. This had to be finished.
Yeah.
And actually, it was like, okay, it's written, let's put it to the side.
Yeah.
So I had a meeting with my publicist, who was also Malcolm's publicist, just to let her know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Just, we have having lunch. And when she laid out where this could go, I was like, really? I was like, because I wasn't thinking on those terms. I was just thinking, okay, this is something that I do want to get out. I do want to get it out for parents. It is something that's necessary, but I wasn't looking at it as any kind of aggrandizement for myself.
Right.
It was just, this is information that parents will need. I'll put it on Amazon and they'll find it.
Right.
She said, no. And this is what we're going to do.
Wow.
And she laid out a plan to formally and professionally release the book. And it's been wonderful. She did a good job. So it took a long time. The parents who, and I stress in the book that you are ultimately responsible for that money, and you're also responsible for the taxes.
Right.
And that the IRS is going to come after your child just like they'll come after you. So you must be very mindful how that money is spent. Right. And do you really want to look at your child and say, oh, there's no more money, the money's gone? Do you really want to experience that? That's right. And it is not your money. You're now industry standard. When I came into the business, was 15% for managers and 10% for agents. Now industry standard is 10% across the board. So do you really, other than that 10% that's owed you, the rest of it is not your money. Right. It is not your money on any level. Wow. And parents get confused with that. Yeah. And they want to spend that money, and then they want to give the money and loan the money to their mama, daddy, sister, brother, whatever. Relatives. And I talk about that. It's called the green blues. Ooh, okay. It's called the green blues. That's right. Because anytime you're in front of the camera, people automatically assume that you are rich. You became rich overnight. That's right. And you're making minimum. Most of the actors in the union can't even afford health insurance. That's right. Now you may that's see a big them thing right there. You may see them on TV, that's a big thing. But they're making minimum. So they cannot. You can only really you cannot lend that money out. I don't care what the situation is. You cannot do that. You just can't do. That's your child's money. That's right. And do you really want to face your child some years down the line
when they're an adult?
And where's my money?
That's right.
Where's my money? What happened to my money?
I trusted you.
There you go.
I trusted you.
So what do? You say no. It's very hard. You're going to lose family members. You're going to lose friends. You will.
Did you?
No, because I didn't have a family like that. I had very little family. I had one cousin to ask me, wanted $500 to buy his mama some Christmas gifts. And I knew doggone well what he wanted the money for. Yeah. And I said no. No, I was very fortunate that I have a very tiny family. And except for that one, no one has ever come to me and asked me for money. Maybe they knew what the answer was going to be.
Look, I was about to say, hold on. I'm going to tell you, maybe it was that, but I think they also knew. Don't challenge her. Don't challenge her. Listen, though, I'm going to say this. And one thing that I absolutely love, about this podcast is that I get to meet so many amazing women who have stories and who have lessons and who have they've literally just triumphed in so many ways. Yes. I will say this book is not just about this book. This book, from what I've heard from our conversation, is your moment to also give back in a way, because you have given back so much, but you've also stepped back. You've also allowed your son to shine, and that was very important for you. His success became your success, right? His success was most important. Yes. And I think, and I'm going to say this again, I know you had a great partner in your ex-husband and his father.
Yes.
But as a single parent, because 9 months is still a long time.
Yes.
As a single parent, I'm so happy to see that you were able to do this for you
Thank you.
and for everyone else in positions like yours.
Thank you so much.
I love
Thank you.
that. And I want really our viewers to understand that that is possible.
Yes.
It may take
Yes.
20 years, like you said, to write this book.
Yes. Yes.
But it's possible at any stage of life. And I just love that. I
Thank you.
love the celebration of that.
Thank
And
you.
so today, as much as this book, I love this book. I think it's going to help so many people. I really do.
Thank
I think
you.
this book is actually going to help a lot of people in this industry.
I hope so. And
I think it
that's
really
what
is
I want.
because it's
That's-
facts.
Yes.
It's experience, it's facts, and it's very tutorial, which is what you need.
Yes,
You need a
yes.
step-by-step guide.
Yes. And it's short.
And it's short. It's easy read.
Yeah.
Easy read.
Yeah. Yeah.
More importantly, though, I just love celebrating a triumph for you.
Thank you.
And today, I feel like I hope we did that.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Thank you. I have one
Thank
more
you.
thing for you.
Sure.
I need you to finish the sentence.
Okay. Okay. Oh God. Okay.
Of course, I'm a cool mom. I'm Go
Pam
ahead.
Warner.
You dang all right. You dang all right. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And all the best with you and your career and your babies.
Thank you.
Read the book.
That's right.
the
Look,
book.
look. I'm saying I'm a hold on because I'm like, look, I need all of the advice though because you're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
It's good to know. I'm gonna read this book for myself.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Look,
read it
for
read
myself.
It for yourself.
There you go.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.